Hello and welcome back to Manibil, and welcome back to my deconstruction of Analytic Idealism course with Bernardo Kastrup on something called Keto Academy on YouTube. And I was listening back to a couple of my recent videos in this series, and I was thinking about, okay, how does he get to some kind of a reduction base here, right? So this is sort of my sort of on the fly kind of characterization, right? From what we have been through so far, what I can gather is he has some experiences, right? I'm just with one broad brush saying experiences, and that might be the colors and sounds and so on. It might also be cognitions like elephant and tomato, and it might be systems or methods like scientific method and so on. That is all sort of derived from this within this category of stuff going on that he later also labeled as his mind, right? Which is, in my opinion, not a description of what goes on, but rather a label that is placed on top of all of it to say goes on within this umbrella of called mind, right? Okay. He then takes sort of a philosophical step back and says, I consider this a dashboard, right? It's like a dashboard. Why does he do that? No particular reason, right? He just sort of, for all I can hear, that he just says, well, it is some kind of, it's like a dashboard, right? And then he says, oh, by the way, a dashboard is understood as something that is representation of something else. I guess there must be something outside my experiences because I just, that's the meaning of the term dashboard, right? In inherent understanding. Well, he just slapped this term dashboard on it. That doesn't mean that because he slapped that term on it, that's something new arriving to the fray, right? It's when you argue for things, you can't just bring in shit and say, now I've established it, right? That's why the exercise of the reduction is so important. Because when you reduce, you find that sort of lowest level where you cannot reduce any further, but then you bring all the shit back that you reduced away. You're not reducing it away to get rid of it, right? You're only reducing to get down to the basics, and then you rebuild from the basics. That must be that base that everything else is built upon somehow, right? But it seems to me what he does is, okay, I am coming up with something new beyond those experiences. And now I'm going to talk about all that new I just invented, right? And then later he says, okay, I have to get sound to something that is sort of the base, just like I said here, right? Though he has abstracted himself from this dashboard, right? Now he's talking about an outside of the dashboard, right? And so now he left the dashboard and everything going on there behind, at least rhetorically, right? Or at least philosophically, I should say, right? Maybe not rhetorically, but another story, right? So let me see. Then he says, okay, imagine yourself in a deprivation chamber, right? And where you can sense anything, and you also became amnesic, so you don't have any understanding of yourself as a being. You're just, there's nothing left but, empty space, right? That would be cause subjectivity. A subject without anything going on, right? There's nothing in mind, so to say, other than mind. So he wants you to reject your experiences, your qualia. He wants you to reject yourself as an understanding. And there were a few other things he mentioned, right, I think. But it basically said, Forget anything you have access to. Then I will base my philosophy of what is left. And I would call it pure subjectivity, but I will always also call it cosmos. I will also call it mind. I will also call it interpersonal, whatever, and universe and reality, and possibly a few other terms also. Sort of 5 or 6 or 7 different terms for the same thing, right? So what he's left with, he appeals to a reduction base I cannot possibly get to. It's pure imagination, right? Pure imagination. How could you possibly have be in a sense of amnesia and in a deprivation chamber and then have an experience of something you can't experience? That's his reduction base, right? I'm saying, get the fuck out of here, man, right? Go fuck yourself with your crazy, cloud castle bullshit, right? I mean, how can you possibly get to an everyday experience? Like, pleasure and pain, colors and this sounds and so on, music and all this good stuff, and tomatoes and baking a pizza and the children are happy and so on, right? How can you possibly get to that when you have removed it from the reduction base, right? And you in order to get to it, you have to remove it. So you can't get back to it, in my opinion, right? Because you're working from something that is pure abstraction, pure imagination. How can you get back to that which you have completely removed from the picture, right? I don't buy it. It's completely crazyville to me, right? I can rule out there's something I've overlooked, and I can that he can come back to me in some kind of after 5 courses, 5 episodes here, in how much is it, like 9, so 15, 35, 55, 1 hour, 1 hour and 20 minutes or so, right? After 1 hour and 20 minutes, he has told me that just forget what you can experience, right? It feels to me like he wants to get rid of the everyday experience. And not because it's necessarily good philosophy, but he needs it in order to convince himself that there's some kind of higher purpose to his being than just having colors and sounds and so on, right? And he suffered from, as far as I understand, from tinnitus, right? Which is sort of a so-called sound that you hear that is not really there, but it's just annoying drill in your ears, so to say, right? And maybe has gone through some divorces and, who knows what, right? And, he has some daddy issues and mommy is crazy and, there might be all sorts of shit, right? That he wants to get rid of in his philosophy. Never underestimate, the agenda, right? As I talked of in the last part, I think. And also, if he's sort of convinced that he's sort of the master of the universe, I graduated on Friday and on Monday I started in a Large Hadron Collider, right? He's like, he must be a genius, right? And then I was a CEO of the greatest company in Europe, without it, there wouldn't be any iPhones for 4 years, right? So I must be the master of the universe, right? So, of course, if I've come up with a philosophy, I have to inflict it on all these peasants out there, right? Who pay taxes and so on. Stupid idiots, they have to work the night shift, and hand their kids over to the government in order to be able to pay taxes to me so I can, get my PhDs and so on, right? Because I'm simply a genius, right? I can imagine all sorts of shit, or, pure subjectivity, and that's where we're going, right? Leave all your experiences and yourself behind and go with me on a mental journey. As I say, the world is run by psychopaths, crazy people, and useful idiots, right? And it's just a question of what category are we dealing with, right? Oh yeah, the next part 6, is called When We Die and the Meaning of Life. Now, I don't know if Bernardo Kastrup has created these slides or intertitles here, right? As you would call it in a silent movie. But, and it's certainly not silent. There's this annoying, potentially, possibly music, but annoying. It's like, oh, it must be somebody who's not caring about qualia at all. It's somebody who has no, sense of quality or, in my opinion, right? I have a decently large music collection around, at least 3,000 CDs, right? So, and it spans from, it spans the last 60 years or something like that, with, something in every category, basically, from ABBA to Zappa, right? Couldn't you have chosen something more delightful than this? You will hear it in a moment, right? That's just a side story or a side note, right? But the part 6 is When We Die and the Meaning of Life. Sounds like some kind of Freudian slip, right? Wouldn't it be the meaning of life and when we die, right? It's not. Yeah. I'm talking about death, and I might mention also sort of about the meaning of life. What is important here? We're going to die, right? Yes, because then you can associate yourself with your maker, right? That's what we. Oh yes. Oh, death is so beautiful. Then you associate. You don't dissociate. Then you associate. Your dissociation crumbles, and you will rejoin your master. Yes, you will become pure subjectivity, and everything is bliss, right? Okay, let's go in.
So the Big Bang, the very beginning, in the past. What about the future? What about our death, the most certain event in life, which is coming for all?
Our death? No, there's no our death, right? Right? Well, what would that be, right? I know it's sort of when you say our death, you mean that when I die and you die and that those people over there die and also you and you, right? And then it's easier just to say we. But be careful with this we, right? Because we is possibly the most dangerous word a human being can use, right? When they say we, they automatically lump you into the thinking. They're sort of inflicting their own thinking on you just by saying we, in my opinion, right? When I do it, I do it because of it's an habit to say that. When I talk about not only myself, but I consider that something that could happen or be a thought that you could have also. So then I say we. But I constantly remind you and myself that I shouldn't say we. I should say I, right? Because that's the thinking is coming from me. There's not a we thinking that came up with the thinking that we die, right? There's some I that comes up with the thinking that we die, so to say, right? But then you should say, well, when I die, right? I can know if you're dying or you will die because it's in the future. And if you can know about the future, I would like to know how, right? Because I think that future is purely a mental idea, right? It's not like if I sit here and say in 3 seconds, my loudspeaker there will still be there. There will be a loudspeaker in 3 seconds. Okay, I'm waiting. 3 seconds, there it was, right? So I can talk about the future because it's still there. Yes, but I had to be there 3 seconds later in order to confirm that it was the case. I didn't know that 3 seconds before, right? And that's why I'm saying you can only have knowledge in the now. Because that's when you have empirical data. You cannot possibly have empirical data to something that is imagined, right? And that's also another critique point of his idea of pure subjectivity, which is an abstraction or an idea or something like that, right? You apparently can't experience that pure subjectivity because it's sort of overshadowed by the colors and the sounds and and yourself and so on, right? So you have to deprive yourself of that in order to get to that pure subjectivity in his case, right? And it's also very, very telling that when a philosopher has to remove your ability to be yourself and have experiences, and then he refers to something that you cannot possibly get to, right? That is the fucking oldest trick in the book, because then you have to come back and ask him to tell you what it's like, because he seems to be having some fancy, crazy ideas, right? He's basically saying you can't do it for yourself. You have to ask me, right? It's almost like it's a narcissism, right? It's a kind you can't think for yourself. You are dependent on me, you little mental slave, right? Fuck off. Okay, I missed. There was something. Yeah, there was this we thing, right? Be careful with the we, right?
All of us. What does analytic idealism tell us about death?
No, idealism doesn't tell us anything. It doesn't have standalone existence, right? You just came up with a label called analytic idealism. It's your philosophy. It's not something. Now it exists out there. Analytic idealism. Let me hear what it has to say, right? That's not how it works. It's your fucking philosophy. It's you are saying it. It's not analytic idealism that says it, right? Take some fucking responsibility.
Particularly the first-person perspective of death. What do we experience as we die? Now, there's good and bad news. I'll start with the bad news.
There's good and bad news. You have news from the future or what? Right? I mean, what the hell is this, man, right? Oh, fucking crazy people, man. He's one of the crazies, right? I mean, there's something not right here, right? It's, okay. My nose is sort of killing me. I don't know what the hell it is. Yeah, let's hit it.
One of the main social psychological reasons why materialism has taken such a fundamental...
So now you are validating your... you just said, what does analytic idealism have to say? Well, materialism has this to say. That's not what... I mean, I'm bringing in the baddies over there and tell you how bad it is. Therefore, it must be good. My philosophy. It must be good because they're bad over there.
Hold in our culture since the late 19th century, it's because it did away with the greatest fear of humankind throughout almost the entirety of our history.
How the hell do you know what people feared back in the day, right? How do you know about that? How do you get to that, right? And you're just some dissociation. And you were dissociated from all these, both by time, but also in subjectivity space, whatever, right? But you can fabulate about what, happened 13 billion years ago and human history and, hey, this is what people was feeling, done, right? Ugh.
Which was the fear of what we will experience after we die. In Christian language, are we going to go to hell?
So now we bring in the Christians, the crazies, right? The Christians.
Singular fear, the biggest fear in human history, has been used by governments and power structures worldwide to control civilizations.
Oh, so you think that government is controlling by fear? Like, for instance, when somebody appeals to them to go and shoot them if they deconstruct the videos, for instance, right? So they are threatening you into submission, right? They're using fear of death, right? I think that if there's anything that human beings have been afraid of, it is that they might be killed by some other human being, right? I don't fear, tigers and elephants and beavers and dogs and cats and so on, or trees or grass. No, I fear other people. If I fear anything, right? because they have the power to kill me whenever they want to kill me, and I can't know if they want to kill me, right? I can't get to it. So I desperately need a moral principle to navigate myself through this shit, right? Somebody, because I'm trying to create a philosophical discourse, suddenly pops up and say, "Now I'm going to possibly kill you if you keep doing this." Okay, holy shit, right? No dogs or cats are rhyming at my door. I'm going to kill you if you don't give me food or something like that, right? Unless you are a very special kind of human being, you are some way or another dependent on other human beings, right? And at the same time, those who have the greatest power to kill you are other human beings. That creates a tension in you, right? That creates a tension, and to get rid of the fear that is built in, conformity is usually the solution, right? You conform to whatever they're doing to make sure that you don't piss somebody off that might then want to go and kill you, right? And that's why you have governments. They take advantage of this shit and say, "Yeah, you have to give me money. We have to, the old, the poor, the sick, whatever, the children, you have to pay. Otherwise they have to lie and die in the streets, right? It's your fault. Give me money," right? "Oh yes, I have to conform into, I'm afraid."
To control societies, it's the single most...
What is a society, right? What, societies? So there's more than one? Are societies also dissociations or what? Or is it all society? Or how do you get to it? Is it sort of you have deprived yourself of your senses in order to get to your reduction base, right? So I don't think you can get back to your senses and qualia, and so it's not something you can experience. Or what society? Then what is it? Where does it fit in your system here, right? And you're just bringing these terms, aspects, abstractions, or whatever it is, in without any clarification. So you're appealing to preconceived ideas of what the meaning is. So you're appealing to me having some kind of philosophy and understanding of the meaning of terms, the semantics, and all that shit, right? Then I have to have a philosophy in order to get there, right? So I have to have my own philosophy in order to reflect over your philosophy here. So you're appealing to me having a philosophy. And when I bounce my philosophy up against your philosophy, I might end up in a situation where you have some friends you want to send in my direction to threaten me into submission, rather, right?
Most dominant fear in the history of humankind. And materialism did away with it. Because...
Well, hooray then, right? Okay, so there's one less fear. Materialism... Even if it's a bad metaphysics, but it works, and it creates a free market where you can trade with people rather than threaten them to get what you want, right? In some kind of Hobbesian nightmare, right? Then you trade with people and everybody benefits, right? Everybody. Even the poorest people will benefit from it, because whatever is being created, they need some people to work with it and create it and produce it. So the poor people will all of a sudden have a job, and then they will become less poor, right? When government steals your fucking money, it's a win-lose. It's a win-lose. Those who take the money win. Those who lose the money lose, right? In a free market transaction, if it's a completely free market, we don't have free markets now, right? Both parties win, right? Both parties win in that transaction, unless they are completely stupid, right? And then it's their own fault, then they shouldn't engage in that transaction, right? When you engage in a free market transaction, you're saying, I have something you want, and you have something I want. I want this thing less than I want your thing, and you want my thing more than you want your own thing. Let's swap. So I'm richer because I got what I wanted rather than the one thing I let go of, and the same is the case for the other guy, right? Win-win situation. That is basically idea that these crazy communists call capitalism, right? But it's basically free association. Create what you want, deal with who you want, right? It's ownership, people taking responsibility for all the aspects of the earth, right? You shouldn't have governments doing it because they don't have any interest, because they can just steal your fucking money. And that's the point of government. It's not taking care of anything. It's making sure that you can be stolen from so they can siphon up whatever they want to cushion their life, right?
You will not experience anything after you die. There is no hell. There's no heaven either, but there is no hell. There is no reason to be anxious about that great, scary unknown, because there will.
But don't inflict your lame ass, low testosterone, small dick energy on me, right? It's like this soy boy here is. It's so scary. I'm going to die. Yeah, okay. Everybody's possibly going to die, right? It seems like a good axiom to work from. It's not something that I know, but it's a decent action, I would say. All the people seems to have died in the past. It's possibly likely I'm going to die also. So I'm working from the same idea. I'm bored with the idea, right? But why would I run around for 60 years or something, 70, 80 years, and be afraid of dying when I know it's going to happen? I can't change it then, right? If it happens, I can't change it. If I'm going to live forever, okay, I'm going to live forever. I'm not sure what I want least. Live forever or die at some point, right? You can't do anything about it. Whatever happens at that point, it happens, whatever happens, right? That's it. Just leave it the fuck alone, right? So if materialism made you think about something else than dying, right? Which seems to be the only redeeming, the only positive potential feature of Christianity is, well, it's going to end when you die. And you will go meet your maker, right? It's like a death cult of the worst fucking kind, right? You have this dude hanging on the cross, nailed to a cross, dead, right? Tortured to death. That's the cult figure. That's the cult leader, right? Died 2,000 years ago, some crazy sandal dude, right? And it's about you being born in, malfunctioning, and you have to be beaten into submission, and then you have to take a big bite of this turd called life for 80 years, and then you might be able to go and join your maker, right? I would rather say, sort of, you fucking crazies, right? I want to get the best out of my life that I can. I don't want to fabulate anything about what happens when I die. I can't be bothered, right? It's like, rather than wrestle with the struggle of life and get the best of it, you sit down and fabulate. I'm just waiting till I die so I can meet my maker, right? That's like, you're not caring about anything that is important then, right? You're not caring about people around you. You're not caring about yourself. You don't care about shit, right? Then you will end up saying, yeah, of course you pay your taxes, right? If Caesar wants money, give it to him, right? As Jesus said. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar. Obey your masters, right? Fuck off.
There will be no subject there. Someone said once, where death is, I am not. Where I am, death is not. And that's a materialist axiom, or a materialist theorem, if you will. Unfortunately...
Okay, so death is everywhere. So death is pure subjectivity, or what? Life is when you object to pure subjectivity, or something like that, right? And then this, pure pain for 80 years, and then you poof, and becomes pure subjectivity once again, right? I mean, I don't give a shit about this, right? How do I figure out if I can eat a tomato when I see it, right? Can I use this shit for anything in that direction? I can't see it, right? I can't see it anywhere. I can't see any relation to anything that is remotely connected to my sort of everyday life, right? And apparently he wants to go and tell me it's not really important, and you should be afraid of dying rather, right? That should be a number one on your to-do list, right?
Under analytic idealism, your core subjectivity remains as you go through the process of death and even after, because your core subjectivity is the core subjectivity of nature. It's what exists. Where is it going to go? Life and death happen to it, within it.
Happen to it, within it? What's going on there, right? Because it seems like it's something else. So it's pure subjectivity malfunctioning somehow or what, right? And I can never possibly get to any explanation of this. And he can just sit there and come up with whatever he wants. Because he's completely disconnected from anything I can experience, right? I can maybe join him in these cloud castles and use my own imagination to imagine whatever he does. But I don't want to live in my fucking imaginations, right? They are important in certain regards. When I deal with my experiences, I might use some imaginations and, whatever, science and all that, right? But it has to be connected with my everyday. Otherwise, why the fuck would I give any shit about it, right? I mean, why would I? If I can't use it in my life, it's as you say, you just have to sit down and be afraid until you die, right? That's the perfect purpose of life, apparently.
Life and death are events in core subjectivity, not the beginning and end of core subjectivity. So the core subjectivity in you.
So you have been alive way before the Big Bang, apparently, right? And you are just something that happened. It's just poof, something happened. Now it went away. Who gives a crap, right?
That thing that remains when you are in an ideal sensory deprivation chamber, completely amnesic, that thing that remains through
that which I never can get to, apparently, right? I can never get to it. Because I can't be in that situation. I can't deprive myself of myself and my experiences, right? So you have to refer to something I cannot possibly get to and make that the foundation of your philosophy. Well, that's just the oldest, sophist trick in the book. No, you can't go there. So you haven't to listen to me, the philosopher priest, who have to tell you how to understand this, right?
The reassociation process that we call death. So there will be someone there will be something there to experience. And the greatest fear of humankind is back. That's the bad news. Now the good news. The good news is we go...
Fear is back.
through a reassociative process every single day. When we are asleep and dreaming, we are dissociated internally. We identify with our...
Oh, we go into dreams, of course, right? Oh, yes. Then you're dissociated. It's also one of these, you do not have any control over what is going on there, right? Whenever the people use dreams in the philosophy, I'm like, get the fuck out of my face, right? I don't use any of it to explain anything, right? I have no clue what the fuck is going on when I'm dreaming, right? And I'm not going to base any of my awakened state, which is where I use philosophy, right? I'm not going to use dreams to explain any of my awakened state, right? It's like we are not all that which is important, your everyday life. I'm sitting right here doing stuff. That's not important. It's more important what happens when you're dreaming. And it's more important that weirdo, the deprived state of pure subjectivity that you're going to join when you're done with this weird dissociation, right? That's what's important. This person is somebody who doesn't want to be himself. He wants to get away from himself, apparently, right? He wants to go and be a part of some bigger mind that is more important than himself. I don't know what the fuck, right? It's like, I mean, You have to be fucking crazy to go down this avenue, right? And I'm sort of thankful that, to some you could say, the spin-off is that I have a better understanding how these crazy people think, right? And I also have, so he will be sort of a magnet for crazy people, right? So whenever they say, hey, I like Bernardo Kastrup, okay, then I know where we're going, right? So then I have an idea, okay, it's another one of the crazies, right? Now, it might be that somebody just stumbling on Bernardo Kastrup and have an idea about idealism might be actually some closer to the right avenue in his philosophy and sort of be infatuated by his linguistic here, right? And then sort of, okay, that it might be interesting, that Bernardo Kastrup, but as, as I have found out, right, it's just not pure subjectivity, but pure craziness, right?
Or a dream avatar, not with the cars and buildings and streets and trees and other people in our dream. We think those things are other than us because we are the dream avatar. When we wake up from a dream, we realize that actually it was us doing the whole thing. We were doing everything, not only the dream avatar, we were the whole thing. And the moment we wake up, our dream avatar dies, he's toast, he's dead, he's gone.
It dies? Okay, so he says that dream avatar is some kind of dissociation within my dissociation or what? And it goes away out of existence and it dies. He used it, when you wake up, it dies. That's a bit of a stretch, isn't it, right? He's just saying, okay, what can I find? Okay, I find, oh, dreams. Yes, they can't, they're out of control of their dreams. I can use that, right? Because it's not something they can directly experience with colors and sounds and so on, right? Are you dreaming in black and white or are you dreaming in color, right? Nobody can answer the question, right? Woo, 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 right? Fuck off.
But nobody goes around mourning the death of their dream avatar every morning because you realized that you were it, but it was not you. In other words, you were...
Who says it dies? But who says there's something dying there, right? He's talking about something you don't have access to directly, or that is sort of fluffy in his boundaries, and then he's going to use that for his philosophy, right? Rather than forgetting all this fucking bullshit, right? And start with your experiences, your colors, and your cognitions from your colors and colors and sounds and taste and so on, and your cognitions from your colors and sounds and taste, like elephants, tomatoes, and bicycles, right? And what do you use those cognitions for? You're planning your everyday, and you're eating your tomatoes, riding your bicycle, and slapping the elephant in the ass, whatever you're doing with it, right? I mean, that's your fucking everyday. That is where ethics comes in, right? Ethics is about that, interaction with other individuals, other human beings, right? That you need your fucking qualia and your cognitions and so on to deal with it. First of all, you need to identify another individual, right? I'm not going to dream about something, tomato, and then I know how to make a pizza, right? He's so dissociated from anything that a normal human being would relate to, right?
Word is superset. Your dream avatar was something you were doing, not what you are. And the same applies, hierarchically speaking. We can transpose that one level up in the hierarchy of nature and say it's the same thing regarding life and death. We are altered or dissociated dream avatars. And I think we don't have any reason to think that when we die, our reaction will be any different than it is when we wake up in the morning and our dream avatar is dead. In other words, I don't think we will go around mourning the death of our individual selves in this great play of life. Beyond that, I don't know. Only the dead.
The great play of life. Okay, so now we're getting poetic, right? As I've stated in other videos, whenever they talk about dreams or they get poetic, right? It's basically a surefire that we are dealing with some crazy person, right? Yes, you can talk about dreams as sort of, yes, there are also dreams. Okay, leave it at the roadside, right? Let's get back to business. And when you're poetic, you want to use words in a fashion that appeals to your emotions or something like that, right? Rather than being strict and neutral about the terms used and so on. The dance of symbols and the play of life and so, oh, give me a fucking break, right?
No. And they haven't come back to tell me. So it's a great mystery. And we have to live with it. And it's scary. But there is one thing that we got back together with the great fear. And that is meaning. Because although materialism got rid of the...
So because you're now afraid of dying, you're getting some meaning. Is it brought along? Because it seems like it's your conclusion. And so it must be your conclusion that brings back the meaning. And the conclusion is, I'm afraid of dying now. And that fear must bring meaning. I mean, it sounds like it to me, right? So the meaning of life is being afraid of death and dying and being dead, or what, right? I mean, why the hell would I spend time on this crazy train, right? Well, yeah, I'm spending time in order to point out how crazy it is, right? This guy needs a shrink or something. There's something that's malfunctioning here, right? He is in some deep shit, I think.
The greatest fear of humankind, it also got rid of the meaning of life. Because if subjectivity is an epiphenomenon of material arrangements, and eventually all of your thoughts, all of your emotions, all of your insights, all of your wisdom that you've accumulated at great cost with great suffering through life, eventually they will all be gone and they will mean exactly nothing. That's materialism. So we get rid of the fear of death, but we get rid of meaning.
Oh man. Oh man. Oh, this is ridiculous, man. Get rid of the fear of death, then you have no meaning. Get me fucking break, man. Holy shit, man, right? This sounds like the Middle Ages. I mean, it's like, give me a fucking break. Ah. I'm not, I'm not, I don't want to be a part of any sermon in this church, right? You have to be afraid of death and dying in order to have meaning in your life. Otherwise, there's no meaning to your life if you're not afraid of dying.
Analytic idealism, on the other hand, the contents of your dissociative process, all the insights, all the maturity you've acquired at the cost of unspeakable suffering through life, because suffering is an intrinsic element of life.
Unspeakable suffering? You know, it's just like suffering is just something that is there. It's disconnected from other individuals, apparently, right? But as I say, the most dangerous aspects of your life are under other individuals. So if you're suffering, it's not because of the beavers and the trees and the grass, right? It's because of other individuals. That's why your bullshit philosophy at some point has to arrive at something resembling a moral principle that will help you and potentially me guide yourself through this bullshit of other individuals that might screw up your life and create all this suffering you're talking about, right? What an example. There's somebody who made a statistics that figure out that at least 250 million individuals were eradicated by their own government in the 20th century, right? At least 250 million individuals. And that is not counting wars or anything like that. Or epidemics that might have been, dealt with, or illnesses and sickness and lost opportunities and all the death and destruction there's been. This is just somebody who was eradicated by their own government, right? 250 million people. And then comes all the wars, right? And all the lacks of opportunity because the government steals your money so you can't start a business, and you're even less happy than you could be if they didn't steal your money, and so on, and so on, and so on. Give me a fucking idea of whether or not government is creating suffering, right? Or they might be, sometimes creating some goodies for some people, right? I see a lot of fucking suffering going on, right? On the account of government. But for some reason, that sort of eludes these people. We cannot talk about government, right? No, you have to sit there and talk to the stupid little monkeys that you call them, right? And tell them they have to think about pure subjectivity that they can't get to, and they should be afraid of dying. That might create some meaning in their life. Fuck off, man, right?
All of those gains are not lost. They are released in a broader cognitive context. They are made available to the mind of nature, to mind at large. And ultimately, all of your suffering is not for nothing. There is a meaning to that.
But it's like his life is apparently one endless stream of suffering, right? Now, if that is your understanding of what life is, I don't think I am in any way encouraged to take any part of your philosophy seriously, right? Because if your life is pure suffering, the only thing that you can be waiting for is the point where you are dead, and that suffering stops, and you're joining your maker in what might only be better. Even if it's some different kind of suffering, it must be a less painful suffering than the thing you're apparently going through, right? Now, I don't care about this death cult appeal here, right? I have no patience with it. I want a philosophy. I want to philosophize. And I would say philosophy is only about your awakened life and your lived life, so to say, right? From the point where you are able to philosophize until you die, right? How am I going to approach that? What do I have to work with? I have my fucking experiences and my cognitions and my theories and my ideas and so on, right? I have to use that somehow to get to a moral principle so I can guide myself through life to avoid unnecessary suffering, right? You're basically saying, I don't give a shit about that. It's just suffering. Then give it up and wait until you die. And then you'll be happy, right? Fear death, but then be happy. Fuck off, man.
That there is something, not something, there is, all of it remains present in the fabric of nature. And not only that, it remains much more broadly accessible.
Fabric of nature. Now it's not just nature. You see switching back and forth with all these terms, right? Now you're back to nature, apparently, right? The fabric of nature. So nature is made of something he calls fabric. I think it's the first time he used the term fabric. Where the hell does fabric come from now, right? And what is that? Some superstring of mind or what? A superstring of pure subjectivity. Now you have to explain what that superstring is then, right? That fabric you're talking about. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is... I'm lacking words to extent how stupid this is, right? And potentially dangerous, because you're lured into this pessimism, or it's like, no wonder he likes Schopenhauer. He's the biggest pessimist in the history of human beings, right? It's like everything it's one big shit you have to eat a bite of every day until you die, and then you might be happy, right? Okay, yeah, fuck you, right? Get out of my face.
In the fabric of nature. You can see this metaphorically as remembering your dreams when you wake up. You are no longer your dream avatar, but the mental contents of your dream avatar survive in you. You remember the dream. You remember thinking that you were your dream avatar. And dreams are incredibly informative. You can learn so much about yourself. You can get so much insight about who you really are, what you really fear, what your hopes and dreams are, what your anxieties are, what your traumas are, how to reintegrate them. You can learn all that from your dreams.
Can I learn how to bake a pizza from my dreams? If I haven't seen a recipe before, right? Can I really learn anything important about a dream? No, I can't. And all these dream analysis, yeah, fine. If you dream of an eagle, it means that whatever, something, right? That is just sort of, I don't see a connection. It seems like it's just, pulled out of somebody's ass, right? And it's sort of, it is using metaphor land to create some idea. When you dream of an eagle, it means you want to fly away or whatever, something like that, right? It's pseudoscience, right? And he has no problem, juggling between hardcore science and pseudoscience and pure abstractions, and he's just grabbing whatever he wants and whenever he needs it, right? And it's all disconnected and no definitions, no axioms, no logical steps that he's following. He's just bringing in terms whenever he wants, right? I mean, the list is endless. There's not really any cohesion here, right? This is based on wishful thinking. This is where I want to go, so I'm just connecting the dots in order to get there, right? I can find some dots here and a dot there, and see, I got where I wanted to be. Aha, right? I have no patience with that.
Particularly after you wake up. As a matter of fact, you can't do that during the dream. But after you wake up, you can reintegrate the memories of a lifetime of dreams and be a more mature, a wiser, better, more integrated, more individuated person. Could that be happening at the level of the universe? I would submit to you that this is a very reasonable, coherent hypothesis. And it flows very naturally from the premises of analytic idealism. So fear is back, but meaning is also back. That's the good news.
Honestly, I didn't get that meaning of life that he's talking about. Now we might be elaborating on it. I didn't. What is meaning, right? This search for meaning, and I'm not sure what the hell it is. I mean, the search for meaning, I think, is more destructive than it's healthy. Because you're going into all sorts of cloud castle in order to create some story about your life that is just artificially created because you want something to be there, and you're very likely going to choose something that you want to be the case. And then it becomes a part of this philosophy that you are then inflicting on everybody else, right? Get it out of my face, man. Okay, I think we'll stop here. It seems like they're sort of halfway through this, and the meaning of life. And it's not a Monty Python movie, but it's a, Bernardo Kastrup movie, right? And it's also pure fiction. And it's almost as crazy as Monty Python. Okay. Please share, like, subscribe, give me a comment, consider a donation, and otherwise, have a nice day. See you in the next one.